He didn't say don't feel, he just frowned when I did. He didn't say be strong, he looked disappointed when I wasn't. And so I learned silence is safer than softness. Stillness sounds like approval. Mama said be careful with your words, but Daddy never spoke of his. He built his feelings in defenses, called it discipline, called it manhood. At 7 I learned that crying was currency, and the world paid in shame. By 12 I learned the language of silence, how to nod instead of meet. I grinned while breaking quietly. They said be a man, but they never said what kind. So I built myself from absence, every I'm final brick, every swallowed tear, mortar. I was raised to be quiet, to hold storms in my chest like secrets. Taught that strength is how long you hide it, and weakness is how loud it hits. I was raised to be quiet, like a church before confession, like a man rehearsing his composure, too fluent in suppression. There were nights I spoke to ceilings, because they never judged my tone. I prayed to walls that echoed back, don't let them see you alone. They called it self-control, but it felt like self-erasure. I learned to bury feeling deep enough to mistake numbness for nature. Every word is the same survival spell. Swallow, smile, keep moving. But silence doesn't save us, it just stores the noise for later. I was raised to be quiet, to hide the flood behind the dam. Taught to fix, not to feel, to mend what I am. I was raised to be quiet, and now the quiet's too loud. I'm whispering through the rubble, trying to make my father proud. So here's my voice cracked but alive, here's my truth trembling but spoken. Maybe being a man was never about silence, maybe it's about sounding human again. You didn't have to tell me to be strong, I watched him do it every day. Jaw clenched, back straight, eyes saying everything his mouth could. And I thought, that's what love sounds like. Quiet. You spoke inside, long pauses between football games and bills. You spoke with your hands, fixing, building, holding nothing too long. I used to wait for your words, like rain in a drought, but our eyes were nice, half smiles and instruction. Be good, be better, be okay. Dad's voice, my silence, two ghosts in the same room. I learned your love in fragments, in chores and curfews and fumes. Dad's voice, my silence, I'm still trying to translate it. Every I'm fine I am says me trying to imitate. never told me you were scared, but I saw it. The way you stare at the ground like it owed you a piece. You were a man of few words, but every one of them weighed tons. I carried them like commandments. Don't cry, don't quit, don't need too much. And now when I open my mouth to speak, your silence echoes through me. Maybe your father taught you the same, how to survive by withholding, how to love without saying, how to stand even in hurts. Maybe every man in our bloodline built a home out restrained and called it wisdom. What if love was supposed to sound loud? Dad's voice, my silence. The wind leads a locked throats. We built our bond from distance and called it growth. Dad's voice, my silence. Two hearts too proud to break, but I'm learning now, even quietly. If you ever hear this, just know I understand you now. You weren't heartless, you were just unheard too. And maybe that's all and speak softly, but finally. They said, hold it together. They said, keep your chin up. They said, don't let them see it. But nobody said what to do when you've held it so long. Your hands start shaking. I learned to smile through the fight, to keep walking with blisters and pride. They called it courage, but it felt like disappearing inside. You'll learn quick that pain makes you invisible, that exhaustion is noble, and rest is a rumor. They said you're strong, I said I'm tired. They said then you're doing it right. I was taught to endure, to carry more than my body was built for, to fix what breaks, to fake what hurts, to swallow storms and call it worth. I was taught to endure, to outlast even my own heart, but no one warned me that endurance without healing becomes another word for numb. You grow into silence that consents to aching skin. You start measuring love by what you can hold in. The world claps for your essayings, but they never ask what it costs. They love you most when you're steady, when your eyes don't betray the ache. But being unbreakable is just another way to pray. We inherit the gospel of grit, the scripture of survival, the religion of don't quit, and we preach it until our own voices go hoarse. Maybe it's not weakness to wanna parse. Maybe men don't need to prove how much they can take. Maybe we just need space to breathe without explaining why. I was taught to endure, to walk through fire and smile still, to never name the pain, to mistake pressure for will. I was taught to endure, they ask what I'm doing now, tell them I'm learning endurance and remembering myself, because sometimes strength isn't holding on, it's finally letting go. Laughter bouncing off top, smell of sweat and pride in the air. Everybody do it talking loud, nobody saying much. Yeah, we learned early that jokes were armor, that teasing was touch disguise. You call it bonding, but sometimes it's just fear in disguise. There's always one who gets too honest, and the room goes quiet, like truth is a foul nobody wants to replay. We learn to laugh instead of ask, to flex instead of feel, to hide the trembling hands, and to talk about girls and games and goals. We said bro like a prayer, but never said I'm hurting. We bragged about winning, but never about healing. Echoes in the locker room, bodies grow, hearts and consume. Everybody's tough, nobody's true. Echoes, echoes, nothing new. We talk in circles, swallow the truth. We bleed in silence, laughing soon. Echoes in the locker room, so loud we forget we're human too. We perform strength like a ritual, they say it's tight, faces tighter. Competition becomes confession, but they do who runs faster, who lifts more, who hides best. There's a loneliness under the noise, but no one calls it that. We just say it's part of being a man and keep on pretending it doesn't sting.
There's a moment after the laughter fades, after the shower scene clears, where you catch your reflection and wonder who you'd be if you could actually speak. But the echoes fill the room again, you swallowed the thought like all the men before you did.
Echoes in the locker room, we clap, we boast, we bruise. Heavy silence has a heartbeat, every mess leaves a wound. We say we're brothers and maybe we are, but brothers can drown each other in pride. Echoes in the locker room, no tears, no truth, just time. Sometimes I still hear him, laughing honest, the ghost applause. All those voices I copied to forget my own. That part that followed me home still smells like sweat and fear. When I was 10, I wanted to be a storm chaser. By 20, I was the storm. Used to draw galaxies in math books, write songs on the back of church notes. Used to think the world was kind, that men could fly on hope. But somewhere between chores and checks, between proving and pretending, I traded wonder for wages and called it growing up. They said be practical, they said dreams don't pay bills, but no one told me what happens when you start believing that. Boys don't dream anymore, they just scroll and survive, trading purpose for performance, just to stay alive. Boys don't dream anymore, they rehearse being fine, hide the ache behind the paycheck, smile and call it grind. We were told to aim high, but not too high to want, but not want too much to love, but only in a way that doesn't make you soft. And so we learned to shrink, invisible architects of half-lived lives. Now I can watch build empires with hollow eyes, their childhoods buried beneath concrete schedules. There's a boy still inside me, hands dirty with crayons and curiosity. He still whispers sometimes, can we build something just because it's beautiful? But the man I became tells him to hush, there's work to do, there's rent to pay, there's no time for stars. Boys don't dream anymore, they edit their souls to fit the day. They erase the colors, keep the gray. Boys don't dream anymore, they build cages called stability and call it maturity. Sometimes when the night forgets to end, I still see him, the boy I was, standing under the sky, hand outstretched, still believing he could touch something higher. Maybe tomorrow I'll let him try again.
They say we become what we behold. I beheld men who never healed and called their scars inheritance.
He built a life from leftovers, dreams patched with duty. He never cried, but sometimes I caught his silence shaking. His hands always busy, his eyes always elsewhere. He carried grief like in groceries every day without complaint. And I learned from watching to love without language, to suffer without sound. Every generation learns the same script. Don't feel too much, don't say too much, just lies. And so we pass down silence like a family heirloom. Blueprints of broken fathers etched in the bones of their sons. We build our homes with the same mistakes, paint our pain with the same tongues. Blueprints of broken fathers, we copy the cracks, call it design. But I'm learning now, some legacies are what we've keeping alive. Never told me about his father, but the way he flinched at another said enough. There's a story behind every stern face, a tremor under every calm tone. When I raise my voice in anger, it sounds like him. When I pull away from softness, it feels like him. His blueprint runs deep, a ghost architect in my blood.
I used to resent him. Now I just grieve for him. Because how do you blame a man what he was never taught to name. Maybe all our fathers were just boys who ran out of safe places to cry. And maybe healing starts here, with me choosing to build different.
Blueprints of broken fathers handed down like gospel truth, but I'm rewriting the lines, not far from silence to prove. Blueprints of broken fathers, I see the cracks, I see the pain, but I won't pass it forward, not the shame, not again.
If you hear me, Dad, I'm not angry anymore. I'm just trying to finish what you never had time to start. And maybe that's how we both get free.
No squires, no noise, just your wire that starts, then my ribs. I wake up with armor on, even when no one's coming for me. Every mirror feels like a test. Are you still holding it together? I go to work, crack a joke, count the seconds till I'm alone again. Nobody sees it, the slow collapse behind the calm. They think I'm fine because I don't flinch, but silence doesn't mean peace. It means I ran out of words. It's the invisible battle, no medals, no end. Smiling through shrapnel, calling the wound a friend. It's the invisible battle, and I fight it every day. With small talk, long nights, and the art of I'm okay. Sometimes I wonder how many men die standing, or how many heart grew hurt because they learned to whisper their pain in private. I've been the hero in every one story except my own. Built a fortress called composure and got trapped inside. There's a kind of grief that doesn't make headlines, a loneliness that doesn't post a crowd, that only got it somewhere between breath and breakdown. It's the invisible battle, the man that just alive. Hey, it's all your secrets, the dread of baited signs. And that's where most men live, not broken, just bruised, not gone, just ghosting through life. It's the invisible battle, no bandages, no blood, carrying storms like secrets, pretending it's love. It's the invisible battle, and the silence is the swamp. Every laugh, every nod